Entangled with the godless. Entangled. The very word entangled goes along the same from where I'm speaking anyway. It goes along the same realm as being in a spider's web. There's an old story about that's not a story, it's a truth and a fact anyway. The black widow spins a web, and after she's done with the mate, okay, she devours the mate and eats it. Eats the male counterpart of spinning the web. In a lot of family bloodlines, the mother, the female, has a very predominant, even though she's really just a concubator. Okay, she's just a concubine, the holder of the fertility bloodline, which is the sperm. She takes on a role that is really doesn't belong to her because she's really secondary in your life. The Bible says we're all to honor our mother and our father. And I think it starts off with mother first, which is interesting. But there is a place of honoring your mother to the point that you have to pray that God really just really sets the line straight, the line of communication, that you're not so entangled, especially if you're a male who comes from a female matriarch type system. And what the mother does is that she makes sure, just the same way the spider does, she spreads her massive talons and she covers the web. When she spins the web and the web is sent out, it comes from her as an extension to have everything basically be stuck to it. It has a sticking purpose behind it. And what a web does is that a web grabs and attaches itself or catches anything that she can feed her young with. And that she can basically live, it's called her home, that she can move back and forth to. And when you look at the web, it looks so awful and so ugly. And a lot of times, even in a house or wherever you are, you will not see the spider. You won't see the spider. But as they're inside the web, as the seedlings are planted and all that stuff, out comes the small little spiders, and you don't see it. And the thing is about being entangled with the godless is that it really does start at home. It starts at home more than anything else. It starts at home. It doesn't start outside. It starts inside. And everything that basically is attaching itself to you or you're being entangled with, it really is just a repetition. Different people, same situation. And God has a way of dealing with the web. God has a way of dealing with the entanglement. Is that He has to introduce God. He has to introduce His power, His majesty, who He is into any situation. When you become entangled with the godless, okay, just like a spider, you are either going to be caught or you're going to become a how can I put it, in offspring of the spider. And the thing about God, how He works with the entanglement, is He going to make you very aware that you have now entered into a situation that has the ability and the power to pull you into a atmosphere. And I've seen this quite a few times. And the Bible says this too, and I've seen this to be so true. It says a threefold cord is not easily broken. Just the same way God has to introduce the triunity in everything, because this is his basically His majesty, the triunity of God. So of course, He does everything coming from Him. Everything produces after its own kind. And what the wicked one will do, I mean, being hierarchy of it all, is in the entanglement, he's going to make sure that there's going to be two parties plus you. A lot of times you'll discover When a third party comes into the environment, there is a completion that takes place when you're in it. And when that happens, it becomes a legal stronghold that you're going to have to fight your way out of it to break the how can I put it, the as the word I'm looking for, anyway, the circulation of the fullness, right? So you can have two people having something, whatever, and even if even in a marriage or whatever, the mother-in-law comes into the picture, or someone else from a family comes in, you end up with a triunity. It's not always going to be husband and wife. Even if you go to work wherever, you're always going to discover there's going to be other people going to be involved to form this triunity between you and two other people. Just so you end up becoming stuck, you end up going into the drama zone, you end up going to the cyclone zone. And what God really wants to do with the entanglement of it all is wants you to not get so involved in the snare, in the web. In the web of the situation, all those tiny little lines in the web are all having their own form of communication, like a phone line. And each communication comes from the centrality of the heart of the spider, the black widow, or whatever. I'm just using an example, of course, has a centrality about it. And it's to get you so deeply entangled that it starts to work inside and then work out of you to push out all the good things that God is planting in your life. It won't succeed because the Bible says that we have been delivered from the powers of darkness. Nevertheless, when you are involved in any way, shape, or form with the godless, them who don't want God, period, less means less of God. Okay? You're going to have a whole lot of more of the wicked one and his demonic cohorts. And they're only interested in wanting to get you involved and all tied into their works, their bitterness, their sorrows, their anguish, their perplexities, their depression, their ways that brings about curses. God consistently will always keep warning us. As the Bible says, what fellowship has light with darkness? What fellowship has light with a believer and an unbeliever? As you believing in God, it is so important that you keep yourself, even though you can be in an environment, you make sure you keep yourself separate. And there'll always be some kind of a dividing line. You will never see it if God is in your life. You won't even know what it is. And sometimes God will go to extremities in order to keep the entanglement from being too legal in your life. He will allow a certain kind of a conflict to be in the environment between you and them. In that way, there's no agreement between you and them. There's an old saying that says the birds of a feather flock together. I found this to be so true that there's a term called a narcissist. They are so good with sticking with each other. They're so good at sticking up for each other, but they're also so good at sticking it to each other. It's like the den of thieves that have no honor. And that's the way they live. And they will in no certain terms, because of the aspect of shame, okay? They don't believe in being ashamed. They have to find a way to make you feel what is going on inside of them. And that's when entanglement ends. I'll end my video with that. That is when entanglement, the full on purpose of entanglement is to take what can't be removed from them and extend it into your life because it makes it less stressful to have it. Godlessness is a curse. It brings about a whole host of traumatic disturbances that God never intended for the human race. And people, when they are themselves so entangled in darkness, they don't even want to find a way out, or they don't even know how to, or the season hasn't come for them to get out of it. They're not ready for it. If you've gotten out of it, don't make no excuses. Don't ever go to the point that you play God, that you think, oh, I can be some help or some not. Some things are so complex, man. The simplest thing you can do is make sure you don't ever become entangled. And you will find the practical ways to do that, depending upon the situation, the circumstances, wherever you are. You'll find a way to stay out. And the best way to stay out is don't let it go far. Don't let it get too far. Don't let it get too steep and too involved. Have a good day. Like and subscribe.